to get emotionally into our work. Let the information come into my brain. What shall we do? To hack our attention or to calm down to get in flow? And is your attention span like a goldfish?
Y'all got some ugly goldfish.
It's almost impossible for you to focus, like me watching hours of animals video, and I can relate to your struggles. I know we can all do better. I trust you as a person with a lot of potential. I have digged through the scientific and academic literature in the hunt of a method to hack my attention without sacrificing my mental health. And I think I've found one. Here I'm gonna share it to you. And hello, welcome back. I am Priscilla. I am fill in the blanks if you are a lovely returning friend. So today my goals are to open my textbooks and pre-study my 2 new accounting lectures for 10 minutes. Why those goals are so tiny and doesn't even look like it's a proper goal for the day? I've lowered the activation, energy, and motivation just to get this task started. I will feel so accomplished once I start this. It's time to get the actual day started. The usual morning routine goes like this. I get out of bed and just scroll on my phone and reply to Snapchat. What a wonderful beginning. And did you know that your scrolling on your phone is also paying attention? You wandering around and walking around on the street is also a type of attention. But isn't concentrating a laser beam focused on your current task and it feels very hard? No. From neuroscience point of view, attention is very fluid and multimodal. Imagine that your phone is ringing, your classmate is clicking on the pen, wind is blowing, and while all of this is going on, you have to focus on your lecture. The purpose of attention is to focus on the most crucial information for survival. How can we block off all those noise and enter a stage of concentrated, focused enjoyment? We want to enter to the flow state as fast as possible. So for those who are wondering what a flow state is, flow state means that we are in the zone. The blinds of our brain just blocks off all distractions. We feel so immersed in this activity and we feel a sense of purpose. So the first step with entering flow is to own our attention and understand it's a finite resource and see how this thing works. Here is Neuroscience 101. You will be able to enter flow and control your attention on demand, like a ninja. I don't know, do I have any muscles to be a ninja?
No shit.
I just remember the little phone game where tap 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 and that ninja jumps. Me and my friend loved to play that game in high school. In our attention system of the brain, there are 2 types of pathways. One is called scattered mode, the other one is called focused mode. Scattered mode attention will be active when we are doing nothing. Here in neuroscience term for the scattered mode, it's called default network. If you guys are TMI and want to know more about technical and anatomical neuroscience terms, the brain parts that control this are dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, posterior cingulate cortex, lateral parietal cortex. Those 3 parts synchronize together to control our default mode. When I am trying to enter into a focused flow state, I will be in focused attention. In the focus mode, or called task network in neuroscience terms, is dominated by the medial prefrontal cortex. Those 2 systems work like a seesaw in our brain. Our brain will control and determine which type of circuit will be more active. And what is the conductor that controls this thing? It is the famous dopamine. Dopamine is a molecule of motivation. And yes, of course it's linked to addiction, but every day of how we want to socialize, drink water, eat food, get out of bed is all because of dopamine. In your brain, picture an hourglass. The scattered part is the open part, and then when we want to focus, we'll be in the narrow part of the hourglass. The time seems to be passing by very slowly, and when we finish our task, we'll be on the base of the hourglass. So next, our secret sauce is to know how to speed this process up from moving to the scattered part of the hourglass to the skinny part of the hourglass by leveraging our body chemistry and physiology. For example, when light's shining into our pupil will dilate because the eyes cannot stand this much of a bright light. Using vision or our breathing, we can control our autonomic nervous system, such as our heart rate or blood pressure. There are 3 prep stages of entering flow. The first stage is emotional prep. In this stage, we are activating our motivation and setting clear intentions. So if I get out of bed and I want to move into a new task, how can I increase this speed? Should I visualize the success and winning feeling of finishing this task? According to Dr. Human's podcast, he said to visualize failure, because visualizing failure will bring myself into an anxious, fearful state. This is the best method to keep ongoing motivation for a task towards a long-term goal. Not all courses will be finished in like a day or two after we just finish an assignment, right? I will visualize my failure of not doing a task. To make this a little bit less woo-woo and put it into a concrete example of my goals today, that pre-studying on my accounting lecture, my consequences of not finishing this task will be having to catch up before the exam intensively. And I rather feel a little bit of anxiety now from visualizing failure instead of actually having to catch up all the materials before the exam. Which one is worse? Cramming or having a little bit of anxiety now to fear myself to get into motion and just finish this task? I know some people maybe think that method is very overwhelming, like why would you visualize failure by sabotaging yourself? Of course, don't go overboard with this. Our mental health always before doing our task. And then second, woohoo! For our set a reward or feedback for this task. In order to make a reward or feedback that works for us, there are 3 criteria. First is that the reward or feedback has to be immediate. Second one is that it has to be in my control. Third one is that you do not use external rewards, such as finishing this book because it is a required homework from school. Why? So why this reward cannot be extrinsic? Funny enough, researchers have done a cool experiment. One group of child were not rewarded for doing the task. The second group were rewarded for doing the task, like candy or like some break time. And then in the long run, the group that was not rewarded for the task ended up enjoying the activity, and then who had external reward did not enjoy the activity. If we want to have continuous motivation, we will have to use intrinsic reward and motivation. For example, in accounting, an intrinsic motivation would be loving the process of studying and harnessing the power of my brain, for having a foggy image to having a clear understanding. And for the accounting lecture, an extrinsic reward will be trying to obtaining a good grade because I study hard. As you guys can see, those intrinsic rewards and goals can be very subjective to yourself. You can be very creative and assign any meaning to this task. The third step on emotional prep is finding that sweet spot. I don't have any lollipop to lick on. There is a paper called 85% rule of learning. This is from a scientific paper that I'll put right here. It means that 15% of the time we will be making errors and 85% will be correct. So we don't want this task to be too hard that we will give up, or too easy that we think that this is a waste of time. In the sweet spot, we'll be motivated with making errors and having some cognitive frustration, but still allow us to focus. And then the next step is environmental prep. After prepping our brain, our phones and desk can be a mess, and it will be a hard time to go into flow. So my first step is block off all distractions. With this, I will use an app called Self-Control or One Focus to block off all the sites that I don't need, such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I will not allow to view those sites in the next 2 hours when I'm working on this task. Second, I will turn my phone into black and white. If you are using iPhone, you can turn your phone to black and white in accessibility and color filters. Your phone will be so boring that you won't even want to touch your phone again. And then third step, I'll turn on the Forest app. This app is very famous for focusing. You'll set a timer, and then if you leave the timer, your tree will die. And then with this app, you can even use your coin trees to buy a real tree planted in the real world. And after having my phone set, and then the fourth step is prepping my ingredients. I'll open up my documents, notes, and textbooks that I need for this session. The purpose of this is not break my flow, because I just need a cup of water, grab a textbook. That is too much cognitive energy just to bring myself back to flow. I know up to this point you might think that, oh, why is this step of going into focus such lengthy and long and extra? Remember the quote that I love from James Clear: we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the levels of our system. And here is a focus system for you to enter into flow on demand. And yay, onto the third step. This is the mental prep. After we have prepped our environment and emotions, we want to maintain our focus, right? So the first step of mental prep is that I will close my eyes and meditate. This tip is from a book called Altered Traits that explains the science of meditation. Now, I'm not going to tell you to meditate for like an hour a day, just sit there and do nothing and just wandering through the space-time continuum. So what's the science of this meditation thing on increasing our attention span? It's very simple. Like our eyes blinks, our attention also blinks. What are attention blinks? When you do a task and then you feel like your mind is like dozing off and you come back onto the task at hand, that is attentional blinks. We want to decrease the frequencies of attentional blinks. Obviously, attention blinks are very cognitive energy wasting because we have to bring our attention back after dozing off, right? And with closing our eyes and resetting time perception for our brain, it somehow decreases the frequency of attention blinks, and that allows us to maintain our focus for around 90 minutes to 2 hours. After filling up my attention, build up our momentum to enter the task with multitasking. And yes, contrary to popular belief, when people say to focus, not to multitask at all, is kind of wrong. This is another tip from Dr. Huberman's Lab podcast. He says, in order to enter a task, you can multitask a little bit to increase your blood pressure and epinephrine to get into the task activation mode of the brain. There are particular criteria that I've set for myself for multitasking. This does not mean that I will go check my phone again. This means that I might turn on my favorite music playlist, read my old notes, type some random thoughts on my journal app to clear my brain, or skim through the titles of the textbook or so. Those are some of the tasks that I would do to keep myself motivated, and we have prepped ourselves emotionally, environmentally, and mentally. This whole process will take around 15 to like 20 or 25 minutes depending on your activation and your momentum to keep on moving forward and your familiarity with this whole setup process to enter flow. And I'm finally in flow and being able to work. Dopamine is my motivator, norepinephrine increase my blood pressure and prepare myself for a fight, endorphin makes me feel pleasure and reduce pain of the task. Serotonin makes me feel grateful for the task. And dynamite makes me feel blissed and also reduces pain. You and I will be able to focus on what truly matters and enjoy this instead of keep on running on the hamster wheel and catching up. If you like this video, you might want to check out the video on how I encode knowledge efficiently in biochemistry. Hope you guys have a wonderful day with your studies, your life, career, and I'll see you guys next time with another video next Saturday. Bye bye.